Craving and desire is the foundation of stress and fear. And people think, that how could that possibly be? Stress and fear comes from adrenaline. So the way to think about this in a kind of real world context is that when we are afraid of something, we have one of three responses. We can either remain still, we can retreat, or we can move forward. All three of those require some increase in our level of activation. And the molecule adrenaline, also called epinephrine, that is what's responsible for getting us moving. It's also responsible for our sense of fear and paralysis in fear. So if people are feeling that they're not motivated or as motivated as they would like to be, there's a key step that people need to take, which is to start focusing on the craving aspect and dopamine. Because if you can make enough dopamine, you can motivate, you can actually crave moving through challenge. So we can talk about how to do that. But just to underscore how powerful this relationship is between motivation and dopamine, you can still experience pleasure without dopamine, but you won't get up off your couch. You won't challenge yourself to go talk to somebody you want to talk to. You won't apply for a job. You won't pursue the new fitness protocol, etc. So dopamine is about craving of pleasure. It's not pleasure itself. And fear comes from this pathway of dopamine into epinephrine. And the way to think about fear is it's just one other dimension of motivation. And we can talk more about that. But if people are living in fear, it is absolutely essential to understand that developing some sense of craving, even if it feels scary, wanting something but being afraid to pursue it, that's the trigger for these molecules to start being released and to move towards it. But we've all been told or conditioned that if we feel fearful, that's a sign that we should back away or stand still. And biologically, that's just not true. So if people are feeling paralyzed in fear, or they are feeling as if they are unmotivated, it's absolutely essential that they identify some kernel, some little bit of something that draws them forward. And if they feel that agitation, the kind of elevated heart rate, the anxiety, a little bit of sweating, this kind of thing, just imagining that they want that thing, great. Those are the molecules that I'm talking about starting to kick into gear. But for some reason, most people start feeling those sensations and they start freezing up or backing away. There are two sides to this, and you see this a lot in the kind of psychological discussion around motivation. It's wonderful to think about moving towards things purely from a place of love and joy, you know, and we feel that and we experience that with a child or with a puppy, or when we hear suddenly music that we love, we feel that these same molecules are liberated into our body and brain, and we feel that positive motivation. But I think that's beautiful, and that's a wonderful dimension of life. I think that it's a mistake to assume that's how it's going to feel to pursue the everything. And the other side of this is that when there's fear, where you can also be quite motivated. So fear is a terrific motivator. And I think that we're so afraid of things like adrenal burnout or chronic stress. And those things are problematic for many people. This dopamine-epinephrine relationship, the fact that dopamine, this molecule of craving, and epinephrine, this molecule of motivation and agitation, this kind of like stress, the fact that those are such close cousins is never going to be untangled. And so doing a lot of psychological work to try and just move towards things from a place of love and desire, I think is a terrible mistake. I think that will eventually come, and it's wonderful to have those aspects to one's life. But I think we should all be in more appreciation for the fact that we are wired to be motivated when afraid, and that we can leverage that. I'm not talking about living in fear all the time, but I think that we can leverage that. It's what can get us out the door. It's what can move us through a tremendously difficult times.